Pardon the interruption this fine Halloween. We interrupt your regularly scheduled viewing of the Bat catalogue to instead bring you a review of DCeased by Tom Taylor. And Trevor Hairsine, Stefano Gordiano, and Rain Barredo. For those of you who do not know, DCeased is an Elseworlds tale, which is basically a zombie apocalypse. It's not. It's more interesting than that, but like the pitch is zombie apocalypse DC, and what happens when the superheroes become infected and turn their anti-life infection against the survivors. If you're thinking, boy, this sure does sound like Marvel Zombies, yeah, it's basically DC's answer to Marvel Zombies. And by the way, I've read Marvel Zombies. I loved the first book, and then I feel like it just got less good with each subsequent entry. I think I read up to like the 4th volume. I don't know if they ever did any more after that. And I hope that's not the case with DCeased as well, because, I don't see why it would be, but I definitely want to keep reading DCeased. I picked up this book as a Halloween read, and I thought it would be scary and spooky, and it turned out to just be more really sad. This book is really sad in some places. I actually teared up at some points. But don't get me wrong, it is plenty horrific too. I read a trade paperback edition, and that collects not just DCeased issues 1 to 6, aka the first book, but it also includes a single issue called DCeased: A Good Day to Die, which focuses more on another particular section of the DC universe and its heroes. And we focus on John Constantine and Mr. Terrific and Blue Beetle and, what was the last guy's name? Booster Gold, who apparently has a time machine. So yeah, this is another subsection of DC heroes who are trying to save the world as it becomes grimly obvious that everything is falling apart and it's kind of beyond salvaging. And I'm so glad this was included, because this was inserted into the middle of the tale. I don't know when it came out publication wise as this was publishing. Maybe this is in publication order as well. I don't know. But there is a line at the end of the A Good Day to Die issue where, because if you don't know, and I didn't know, I had to look it up, Booster Gold is a hero from the future. And at one point he kind of keels over and says, I think we just lost the future. I don't think I'm going to be born, and he dies and fades away, right? He says, I'm not feeling so great, Mr. Stark. And that's such a good element of foreshadowing, because that tells us, the reader, that this is not a tale that the heroes are going to claw back from. This is a tragedy. This is an ending. And also we get told why it is exactly in that moment that, the future is lost. What event happens that prompted that to happen? And it just makes you kind of like look sideways at those events that occur in the main series after A Good Day to Die until the thing happens that you're expecting to happen. I'm trying not to give away too many plot details here, because I do want people to go and read it for themselves, because it is absolute peak. Honestly, Tom Taylor, man, I read the first, I think it was like 2 years, maybe 3 years of Injustice. My only complaint with Injustice is it did get more and more like, okay, we've explored these heroes, now we go down to like the B tier characters and the C tier characters and the D tier characters, until it gets to a point when I don't recognize anyone or know who they are, and so I don't really get much value out of, seeing them in this other world. And for anyone concerned about that with DCeased, I would say it does mostly focus on the Justice League. But also, that A Good Day to Die story is the first time I've seen John Constantine, and I think I'm going to have to go read some John Constantine, because that was incredible. That man is amazing. He reminds me of Wayne from Wax and Wayne, the second era of Mistborn, and I love that. And so this also serves as a really good taster of like other characters in the DC universe, Injustice also did that for me, by the way. I think after reading Injustice was the first time I became interested in Green Lantern. But yeah, the book itself, I've mostly just talked about that one shot. It's such a good what-if scenario. Like, the heroes that go down and the way in which they go down is so interesting, and you can see as well how things would go wrong and how each thing that goes wrong scales the doomsday clock. That doesn't really work as a metaphor, but you know what I mean, like it just gets worse and worse. And if you've never read these kind of Elseworlds what if kind of tales, I would say the thing that's really compelling about them is, obviously in the mainline series, broadly speaking, the heroes save the day, and consequences are rare, and they're usually on more of a macro scale. If someone dies, they usually come back, but if they don't, it's like this major thing. And so it happens very rarely, and characters rarely grow up and stuff. And so these kind of Elseworlds tales, these what if tales, if we're talking Marvel, they're great for kind of like actually bringing us into a familiar world, but the stakes are a lot higher because anything can happen. You know, so many beloved mainstay characters in this book die off, and the best part of that is you get to see how that affects the other characters who are still alive. Specifically, okay, I need to talk spoilers here, so if you haven't read this book, I implore you to go away and read this book. But, so near the beginning of the book, Batman gets infected, sadly, by Nightwing. I don't know what Tom Taylor has against Nightwing, but Nightwing dies very often, very early in his Elseworlds tales, and then he, of course, went on to write, like, a very critically acclaimed run of Nightwing in the mainline universe, so I guess he got his redemption there. But it's horrific. It's horrific seeing Batman just, like, mobbed by his sons and the people he loves, and ultimately he falls victim to this. But the thing that's so great about it is he doesn't die. He doesn't just outright fail and die because he's Batman, right? Like, that would be a bit of a cop-out. That would be a bit of a, okay, Batman was like one of the main characters in the Injustice universe. We want to kill him off and focus on other characters for this universe. But that wouldn't make sense because he overcomes so much adversity. So what we actually see is we see him staving off the infection by hiding out in one of Mr. Freeze's suits to slow his metabolism, just so that he can get the warning out and I guess warn Alfred and get his contingency plan ready with Alfred there. Poor Alfred, man. And also to, you know, tell Damian that, you know, he loves him and all that. And oh, it's so sad. It's so sad. And I love Damian in this book because he gets to become Batman, and that's something that I hope continues onwards in future DCeased books, because I know there's more of them. And of course a lot later towards the end of the book as well, towards the climax, the whole thing with Superman and the Flash, you know, both Barry Allen and Wally West kind of like being terrified because they know that if they get infected, it's the end of the world, it's over, they can infect too many people too quickly. And eventually at one point we see Ray Palmer, is that his name? I'm not familiar with the character, but he's this universe's equivalent of Ant-Man, and he had been sent into the bloodstream of an infected person to try and figure out the molecular structure of the infection to see if he could break it down. Turns out that just ended up infecting him, and it's not great when you have a tiny being zooming around infecting people who can get into quarantined areas. Oops, that's horrific. And so in this way, towards the end of the book, he breaches the Hall of Heroes or whatever it's called, and Flash gets infected, and he's running as fast as he can. He's already dead. I love that, by the way. He's running and he's already dead, and Superman's like, is the Flash dead? And Cyborg's like, yes. He's like, promise me. And he's like, yes, he's dead. He's like, okay. So we do a whole unstoppable force meeting an immovable object, but unfortunately that ends up with the Flash's ribs, I think, sticking out of Superman's chest, meaning he's been infected, and because of his super metabolism he has time to go and say goodbye to his family. Except it's hinted at that if he hadn't done that, he might have been able to fly away from Earth in time to prevent himself from being able to survive and come back and doom the planet, basically. And that's such a horrific flaw. The flaw of human compassion and love being the thing that dooms the world. Good lord. And of course now we see why that guy from the future, whose name I've already forgotten again, died and stopped existing because the future was lost at the point that Superman saved the Flash. And I've got to say, man, the final issue in this volume, which is called The End of the World, goes so hard. It's like this dark inversion of the Superman myth of like, oh, faster than a speeding bullet, you know, look up in the sky. And then you see he just goes through a skyscraper, and just the words, all hope was lost at 11:48 a.m. It was a Wednesday. I don't know why, but that is so evocative, and I loved it. But yeah, I got this book in trade paperback, and I was a little concerned because I saw that there were like 3 different main artists on it. I was worried about like the art style changing too much, but honestly I did not notice the art style change. It was pretty it was pretty consistent through and through. Delightful looking book. I really love how this book looks. Sorry, got a spam call there. Anyway, the perils of recording with your phone. But yes, this is the volume of DCeased that I have, and I will be looking to get at least the sequel to this at some point in the future because it's just so good. Sorry, there's 2 things here I forgot I wanted to show you. First of all, my favorite panel in this book, and probably one of my favorite panels in my recent reads of comics, is this one where Cyborg just shoots through the head of this giant woman whose name I don't know. Just look at that. Look at that. That's gorgeous. I mean, it's horrific and horrifying, but it's also gorgeous. And then also, I forgot to mention, I love how the stakes just ramp up towards the end of the book and how it gets so cosmic. And you get a corrupted version of Superman realizing he can't win, so he devours the sun. Like, god damn, that's so cool. And I think he survives, and he's going to be a threat in the future or something. But it's like, damn, Earth really is cooked. There were some people who stayed behind, and well, good luck with that to them. But yeah, this was an absolute delight to read. It was everything I hoped it would be. But it is still Halloween, and I am not done with my Halloween reading. I can't promise you reviews of everything because I'm just gonna lose my mind otherwise. But I think next up, I'm gonna go read the Marvel 2010 adaptation of Dracula, which is apparently really good, and it is on Marvel Unlimited. So I'm gonna go read that, and then I'm also interested in, they did like a comic run in the 70s with Dracula, which was apparently really well regarded, which I guess it probably took place in the mainline Marvel universe. But yeah, I guess this is kind of like my theme for this Halloween is just comics, and I'm having a great time with it. So I hope you have a happy Halloween, and I'll catch you in the next one.